I couldn't hear anything. I put it back in and then it still wasn't. I just took them out.
Yeah, I've had problems where my AirPods will like it'll connect to my laptop when I'm using it, but then for some reason I had this problem with Zoom. It would like shift it to not playing the audio from my headphones, but playing it from some other device. And like I
Weird.
could not hear it.
Yeah.
And it was like I had to go into my MacBook settings and like figure it all out. It was very weird. So I
Okay.
understand the pain.
Thank you.
But I'm glad you can hear me now.
Yes.
So I don't know where I got cut off, but basically what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go through our rules, figure out the most restrictive one, which one's gonna create the least amount of worlds, and then it'll kind of like domino effect our worlds. So our first rule says that the retailer's booth must have more employees than the visitor's booth. What would you do for this rule?
I would just write on the side, like retailers more than visitors.
Cool. So yeah, we could do something like that. The other thing that I would do this to like remind myself because we do have 6 variables, so it is possible that like we put 2. Can you put 2? No, you can't. You can put 2. Yeah, you can put 2 in visitors. And we have 3 in R or something like that. Like we'll have to kind of remember that as we put our variables in there. But one of the things that we can do right now is immediately put in another slot under R because all of them have to have at least 1. And if the retailer booth has to have more than the visitor, that means automatically they have to have 2 regardless of where we place them because visitors has to have 1. So I'll just put that dash under there. This is like our base diagram. This, regardless of what happens, we have to have these set amounts in our groups.
Okay.
Number 2 says neither F nor K can be assigned to the visitor's booth.
So I would put like F and K and then a V under and then like slash, like to say no, no. Like F and K can't go into the visitors.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the other things that you can do is you can directly, for me personally, I'm going to forget about that, like if it's off to the side. So I can put it closer to my V. So then whenever I go, okay, M can drop into V, I can like immediately see as I look at my V who can't go into V. So it's kind of like a closer reminder for me. Okay. Rule number 3 says neither G nor H can be assigned to the organizer's booth.
So basically the same thing, G and H next to O can't sort of slash.
Yeah. Same rule, just a different set of variables. I'm going to erase this one too. Okay. And our last rule says that G and M must work in the same booth as each other.
I would put G and M together, but I don't know how to yeah.
I would just box it. Just to remind yourself that if I pick up G, M has to come with it. Like it's like they're together, they can't be separated. When I have a rule that's telling me that they have to be together in the same group or immediately next to one another in an ordering game, boxing them reminds me that when I pick it up, everything in that box has to come with it. So that's our last rule. Given the rules that we've gone through, what do you think is the most restrictive rule? What do you think is, or you can also think of it as what's the easiest rule to kind of eliminate?
I would say the last one because G and M have to go together. Like it's a fixed one.
Yeah. And those rules with the boxes or when you do ordering games, like a chain of rules, that's a pretty good place to start because it tackles multiple variables at once. So given our G and M rule, which groups could that box go into?
I would say R.
Could go into R. Where else could it go?
Into O.
Can it go into O?
Oh wait, no, because it needs to have both of them. So
Well, it needs to have both of them, but who can't go into O?
G.
Yeah. So we have G duplicating itself or being mentioned in both rules.
Yeah.
Another good place to start because you kind of know two things about one variable as opposed to like L, we know nothing about L. So if I know two things about this variable, it's a good place to start. So if G can't go into O,
It goes into V.
could go into V, could go into R. And the other thing, I mean, we'll place G and R and V with M, but the other thing you could think about is, well, G can't go into O and G has to be with M. There's no way that M could go into O.
Mm-hmm.
So because G and M can go into R and V, we have those two options. We're going to create that second world and we're going to place them one in R, one in V. So we don't have to think about G and M anymore. It's already placed. And I'm going to duplicate it with my who can't go into which spot, just so I remember. And like I said, one's going to go into R, one's going to go into V.
I guess it looks different to me. Okay, I'm just gonna write it.
Did you tilt it on its side?
I usually put like you see G, F, like those, and then O, and then I do like the worlds next to it. So I'm putting the slashes underneath, and it's kind of confusing me. So I'm gonna just put it on the side to know that that's where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's just so confusing. G, M. Okay.
Okay. So we can completely erase 4 from our minds because we've already put G and M. There's no way that we could violate that rule, basically. What would you say you would do next? We've got G and M placed. We don't have like another block to place, but there is something that we can kind of leap to. There's an inference that we can make. At least in one of the worlds. I'll specify that. In one of the worlds, we can make a leap.
Based off of just the last rule.
Yeah, based off of where we place G and M, there's something that we can do in one of the worlds. Yeah. Think about how many variables you have, how many spaces you have available.
I'm not too sure.
So looking at rule number 1, R has to be more than V, right?
Oh, yes.
So in that second world, we said that G and M could go in V, which is very possible G and M could go in V. But in order for them to go into V, what has to happen in R?
It has to be before V.
We're not looking at like placement of them, but in order for this world to exist, in order for V to have less than R, we just have to make sure that a third person gets placed in R. So R has more people than V.
Oh, okay, I get it now. Oh, I was just trying to find what else we can do based off of the like Gladys and Mike must work at the same. I wasn't thinking.
Oh,
Or yeah.
no. Yeah, those are the only two places that those variables can go. But because we could place G and M and V, it kind of then leads into, okay, well, then that third person has to go into R. And another way you can think about it is, well, this isn't like the best way to create worlds, but it is a way to create worlds when you're kind of stuck, is thinking about how many variables you have, how many placements you have to place, or like what groups you have. So I guess we can kind of dive into that. We have 6 variables that we have to place. And in world number 2, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spots. So basically that solidifies those spots. No one else can go into O. No one can go into V. Everyone, like there's only 3 in R. But in world number 1, I only have 4 spots placed. So there's 2 spots that I can kind of move around and think about where they go. And that's another way you can create worlds, is by placing those placements. And I think it's a good way to go, especially because then you kind of take that like variation out of it. So I don't have to think about L moving from O to R and V. It's more of like, these are my placements. I have to fill them with my variables. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, with number 2, that's our variables or our placements. All we have to worry about is placing those variables, which will be fairly easy. Now I don't have to think about, okay, but what if I move that 3rd spot into O or something like that? But in world number 1, I only have 4 of them. So that means that I have 2 spots left. Where could I put those 2 spots?
I would say still put 1 in R because it has to be more.
Do you mean by like adding a 3rd line?
Yeah, underneath, because of the first rule. So the retailer's booth must have more employees than the visitors.
Could you put both of them under R?
Yeah, but then I was thinking that's going to be the same as like the second world. I thought you were looking for another way to do it.
I think this might be a little too confusing to go this route.
Like to add 3, because there's already 3 in the second world.
Yeah, there's already 3 in the second world, but the reason why this would be different is I have 2 variables in V. This would mean that I don't necessarily have to have 2 variables in V. I could technically take that last spot and put it in O, or I could put it in R and have 4 of them be in there.
Okay, yeah.
But I think this actually kind of makes it a little more difficult. We'll just bypass that. But I wanted to bring that up, and that is a way that you could create worlds if you're like dead stopped. I don't know what to do anymore. Placing those spots down can be helpful. Let's go back to world number 2, because if we just have to worry about placing those variables, we can just figure out where those variables go and then focus on world number 1. So in world number 2, we've got G and M placed. We have 4 variables left to place. We have F, H, K, and L. Where do you think those variables could go?
So I would put F, like, can we do like F/K under O and R and like one of each, because it says that it can go in V, but it doesn't specify that it can't go in O or R.
Yeah, it could go in O and R. Could they both go in R?
Yeah.
They could both go in R. So technically at this point, it kind of becomes a floater. So it's not like we're forced to put one in O and we're forced to put one in R. They could both go in R. And so because they can both go in R, we can label them as floaters. So when I look at this diagram, I can go F and K can go anywhere they want. It's not going to violate any rules or anything like that. So that way it's not going to make me think that one of them has to go in O, one of them has to go in R. So you've attacked F and K, you have H and L left over.
Well, I don't see any specific rules like fixing about H and L. And I'm thinking there's 2 spots left.
Well, where can L not go? Or sorry, L. Where can H not go?
Oh, okay. H can be an O.
So where's it forced to go?
O and R.
Yeah, because it can't go in V. Because again, only two people can be in V, and those are G and M.
Mm-hmm.
So H has to go into R. So now we've got H taken care of. Last variable is L. Where could L go?
Into O.
Could go into O. Could it go into R?
Yes.
Because then F and K would just be flip-flopping.
Mm-hmm.
So L becomes pretty much the same thing like F and K. It becomes a floater. No matter where I put it in this scenario, it doesn't break any rules. And actually, there's like no rules that mention L. So L is just a floater in general.
Oh.
So then when I look at my questions and it says like if F is an O, it has to go into R or something like that, I can move those variables around like I need to.
Okay.
Good with that, world?
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, our next world, world number 1, we're starting at the same place that we were to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's taking a general idea of what we have left over. We've placed G and M. We have F, H, K, and L left over. So we'll have to place those 4. What do you think, or what are you more inclined to start with? Just any variable or rule?
Well, I'm going basically off of the second world and how we basically were trying to attack that first. So, I'm gonna stick with familiar and probably put like 2 dashes under R because it's a way that that world would work where there's 6.
Yeah.
Um, and then
So before I do that, I'm going to make a copy down here
okay.
because like we talked about, it's not required that R has all of them or the remaining 2 underneath
Have to
it.
be
They
there.
could go in different places. So I'm going to make a copy of what I have now to remind myself like this is basically our starting point. So then we can go back and figure out where else we can go.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I would go with, I guess I could just start with 2. Neither Frank nor F no or K can be assigned to the visitors. So that means that F and K can either go into R or O.
Could they both go into R?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think this is one where I would make another world, and this is going to get so crowded. We're going to make it work. I'm going to make another world because if I put the reason why I'm making another world is if I put F and K into R, just both of them in there, it's going to force H and L to go somewhere because H can't go in O. But if I put F and K, one in R, one in O, H still kind of has a little bit of flexibility. It's not forced to go anywhere. So because it kind of creates 2 options for me, I'm going to create 2 worlds. So I'm going to have one where F and K are both under R, and one where F and K are split between O and R. Okay, so now that F and K are split, we just have to worry about H and L now. So what are you thinking?
Well, H can't go into O because it only has one spot there. So it can either go into R or V.
Yeah, so in the first world, I kind of talked about it earlier. H would then be forced to go into V because we don't have any spot for it in R. And then L would be in O.
I don't know which world I have now. I have worlds everywhere.
I
I'm just
think
gonna
it's
go for your diagram.
fine. It's helpful. For me, I usually go up and down. I have some students who like I don't even know like a correct way to explain this, but like they kind of like branch off of each other, so they kind of like spread out. I've also recommend some students going from like left to right and just kind of like going down that way when you create those worlds. But definitely try to figure out a way that works for you for how you're going to create those diagrams. You could even do something like where you're creating world 1, world 2, world 3, world 4.
Yeah, I kind of have them like in different worlds, but I lost track of which one was that you were doing up there. So like I just have to
I will say that's
number
like one of the harder parts of doing one-on-one tutoring or like any kind of tutoring with games is to like make sure you're referring to the correct diagram.
Yeah.
So I totally understand. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so our first world is done because we've put all of our variables in there. That fourth world, though, where F and K are split, we still have H and L to worry about. You said H could go in R and V, and we still have that option. So then it would be flipping with L, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've created the worlds where 4 of them are in R. So if we look back at world number 3, this is kind of what we were starting with, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else? What other path are you thinking about going?
Like to complete the other worlds. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying not to repeat myself. I mean, we already. Well, can we do like? Well, no.
This might be kind of hard for you to see, but I noticed it when we were talking about F and K. If F and K can't go into V, we talked about how F and K could go into R together, how they could be split up.
Mhm.
Do you see what the other option for F and K is? The only other option.
To put them both together in V.
Well, they can't go into V.
Oh, not V. Wait, I guess I am confused. I'm thinking because they're already split, like interchangeable, to have them both together in one.
Yeah, so if we keep them together, they could both go in R. Could they both go into O?
Yes.
Yeah, so really, that was a thing that I caught. That was kind of a hard thing to bounce back from, but that's the only options for F and K. Either they both go into O, they both go into R, or they split.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we could do is we could create this third world where F and K are both in O. And then we don't have to worry about F and K, and all we're worrying about is H and L.
Got it. And then R still has to have more
Then
than
V.
V. Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's more than V. So if we have F and K now, we've completely eliminated F and K. We just have to worry about H and L. And the only thing that we also have to worry about is each group has to have at least one. So technically, we still could filter some of our variables into O and R if we wanted to, but we have to figure out who's going to go into H, or sorry, V.
Wait. Well, H, because H can't go into O.
But could it go into R?
Yes.
So technically, H doesn't have to go into V because we could do something like this. So really what we're thinking is H and L, one of them's going to have to go into V.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really matter who. The other one is kind of, it's a floater with an asterisk, meaning that like H can't go into O. So the only places that H could go are R and V. And L is still a free for all. So technically L still has O as an option. But H is like asterisk. It's either in V or it's in R. We don't really know. Technically we could make another world and split that up, meaning H is one of them is where H is in V, one of them is where H is in R. Or you could do something like this. Do you have a preference?
I think this is fine.
Okay. Worst case, if we go into the questions and it's really difficult to remember that or to move the variables around, we can split it up. And that way we can put H in R and V and stuff like that. So,
Okay.
okay. That was a lot.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I feel like there's always endless possibilities of worlds that you can make, and that's where my brain gets stuck. I'm just like, but then I have to go back to the rules and like, no, there's only certain ways that you can do this.
Yeah, so the reason why, or I guess I should say how to attack that, is to really focus on it rule by rule. So the way that I don't want to say like you were derailed, but the way I kind of got you back on track thinking about where else we could go is I picked on this rule, F and K. And then I realized, well, we had F and K and O and R, and we had F and K and R. Other option, F and K are in O together. That's the only other option. So if you go rule by rule and really focus on eliminating that rule, and by eliminating it, I mean like there's no other place that F and K can go. There's no other combination that G and H can go in. And if you eliminate those, you're filling up spots, which will probably lead to, okay, well, if I put F and K here, H and L are going to flip-flop between V, or L and V have to go in this order. It makes it more strict, and you do it by like not thinking about it. Like it's just forced to happen.
Mm.
Any questions about that? Okay. So let's go to the questions. How do I want to do this? I'm going to skip the list question for now. And we're going to do this. I wonder if I can copy. Nope. Oh, that's kind of sucky. Okay, well, we'll do this. Oh, wait, I have to do this. I don't know if A is the correct answer or not. It's just because I think that's what I clicked.
Okay.
Don't take that to mean anything because I really don't know. So, okay. So this is one of our first questions. It says that if neither Frank nor Keisha, that's not Kesha, is it? No.
I don't know. Not okay.
Is assigned to is assigned to the organizer's booth. If they're not assigned to the organizer's booth, then which one of the following is a complete and accurate list of the booths to which Laura could be assigned? So I'm going to give it like a couple of minutes to look at it and we'll go over it.
So I am gonna go with A, because I'm looking, I was like a little bit stuck between A and C, because I know that in the first world that we have there, F and K is not in O, and L would be in O. And then in the second world where F and K is a floater, I was thinking about putting F and K, maybe, well, F can't go into O. So I was thinking it would just be O.
Yeah. So the only places where if F and K aren't in O, the only place that I can go in is R. And so we could use this second world and put F and K and R.
Mhm.
And again, L is
L
forced to
is
go
gonna be
into
an
O.
O. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that is the correct.
You gave me the answer. No, I'm joking.
The other reason is because it's neither nor, which means both of them. It's including both of them. So we can't use 4, even though it's just one. Both of them have to be excluded. So
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
A is our answer choice. Bye.
No, I'm joking.
Okay, get the next one.
Now I'm thinking of this question back to what you were saying about the other world. If we had to create another one where
What do you mean?
in the when we were finishing up the last world and we were saying, oh, we could create another world where F and K, I mean where H and L is like not there. It's like specifically in one. So that's what I'm thinking about with this question. If that has anything to do with it.
Mm.
I'm gonna say A.
Mike.
Could be wrong.
Okay, so let's go over this one. If more employees are assigned to the organizer's booth than the retailer's booth, which must be assigned to the visitor's booth? Okay, so first thing, we're going to figure out which worlds could we have more people assigned to the organizer's booth than the retailer's booth. Where can that happen?
I was looking at 3.
Yeah, that's the only place where that can happen. And what happens if we have to use this world?
Oh, with the asterisk. So I don't know why would I choose A if I'm looking at that world. I was looking, I was thinking that world because it does have more, and then I started looking at what world? I was looking at 2 where G and M have to be in V. Disregard. But so yeah. Oh, I forgot the question that you were asking me.
So in order for us to use world 3, what would have to take that third spot in O for O to have more than R?
Oh, H. I mean L. L has to be in now because
Yes.
H can't. L has is more of a floater and H is a little bit more restricted.
Yeah, and then it forces H to go into the visitor spot.
Mm-hmm.
So then what's your answer?
L. B. What? Oh my gosh.
We're looking at the visitor booth.
Oh.
Yeah, so which one has to be assigned to the visitor booth?
H.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
You're getting your H's and L's mixed up.
Yes, and I'm literally looking at it.
Yeah, we're not able to use world 2 because F and K are floaters, but this is the world where we can't move these dashes. Like this is where they are. They're set in stone. So I can't force these 2 to come over to O, or even one of them to come over to O, to offset that. So 3 is the only world where we're able to use that diagram. Any questions on that one?
It makes sense when I take a second and read.
Yeah, slow down. And some of the questions were like, if I see myself struggling with it, I will rephrase that question every time I go into the answer choice. So does it have to be true that M is in spot V? Does it have to be true that G is in spot B or whatever? It kind of like recalibrates your mind and focuses you on what you're actually looking for. Okay. our next one. Exactly how many of the employees are there? Any one of who could be assigned to the organizer's booth?
I don't understand that. I'm sorry. I'm just rereading it. Is there supposed to be like a comma there? Exactly how many of the employees are there? Any? Okay.
Any one of whom could be assigned to the organizer's booth. So it's meaning that the number of employees, if I say that 4 employees can be selected, any of them can go into O. It's kind of like a weird way of wording it again.
I'm gonna say C3 because I was going based off of all the worlds. I see that F, K, and L are the ones that typically can go into O
Yeah,
repeatedly.
they're the only ones that are allowed to go into O. Because again, with this one, our asterisk, H can't go into that O spot, so that eliminates it. But pretty much in all of the worlds, we either have F, K, or L in that spot, or a combination of them. So yeah, 3 of them. That would be our answer choice. Only 3.
Yeah, the way they be wording it, just they try to get me.
Thankfully, though, like this question shows up a lot. So you'll get used to that wording the more and more you get exposed to these games. They'll word it like pretty much the exact same way. Okay. Our next one. Okay, number 11.
So I'm kind of stuck between B and C. Because I'm trying to find a world where H is only by themselves. And exactly, and like when H is only with one other person only.
No, we don't have that.
Yeah. So I was kind of looking at 2, and I was really realizing that H can go into R, but there will be 2 other ones. And then I was thinking that the floaters, since 2 out of the 3 floaters are there.
I think
That's what I was.
we're missing a world. And that world would be G and M going to 2. It would have to be this. This would be the world. I don't know how we missed that. Huh.
So then going off of that world, it kind of solidified between my two choices. I'm guessing it's B because I was stuck between where F and H could go. Because in the second word, I was just gonna put F and H and R, but then there was gonna be another one underneath. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so the way that I caught this, or the way that I like bounced back from it, is realized we didn't have one where H and L were together, and I was like, that's weird. And I caught it, or I figured it out by trying to move around the variables that we already have placed. So if this might take a little more practice, but I knew that G and M could only go into R and V. And so if I knew that H and L were a block according to this game, that was a weird block. They're a block. I have 2 blocks now. And if I put them in one of those spots, because H and G can't go into O, so they're going to be flipping between R and V. One of them I'm going to have to make sure has 3, or R have 3, because V can only be less than R.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, if I put G and M in V, that means that H and L would have to go into R, but we have to have more R's than V's. So I'd have to flip them. G and M are going to have to go into R, H and R are going to have to go into V, and then I'm left with F and K, and they just flip-flop between one another.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about earlier when you were saying about World 3 and how if we have H and L and V, there is another possibility that we can have both of them together.
Yeah, because I initially looked at 3 and I went, okay, well, could I put H and L and V together? But if I put them in V together, I would have to have someone else to make R have more than V. And I don't have anyone else. I've used up all 6 of my people. And so then I thought that kind of led me down the same path. Then I thought, well, could I move F and K? And I could force one of them to come over and outweigh R or outweigh V. So, yeah. So yeah, then B would become our answer because F could be assigned to the retailers.
Ooh, confusing.
Okay, so number 12. Oh, I gotta do this. Okay, number 12.
I'm gonna go with C. Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't read E. I was too sure. um, oh, it's D. I'm looking at the right thing, but so I'm looking at World 2, where G and M are already in V, and then we have FKL as the floaters. And so I was thinking if H and L is this, if neither H or L can go in V, where else can they go? So I I just
Oh,
realized that G and M have to be there.
yeah. Yeah, this is a must be true. So it has to be true 100% of the time. So thankfully, we're only looking in one world, which means that it just has to happen in this world, set in stone. And really, you can predict this. I predicted either H is with R or G and M are with V. Those are the only ones that we can't move around. Anything that's talking about F, K, or L is immediately gone because it's not 100% sure where those variables are going to go. They can flip around.
Mm-hmm.
So that eliminated A, B,
E.
E, and then you're stuck between C and D.
Yeah.
And you're forced to put G and M into V. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
D does become our answer.
Mhm. And I didn't think about must be true questions like that either. And that's a good way to think about it, like from the beginning, when you think about which ones are flexible and which ones aren't, or more restricted. So when you're thinking of must be true, because I get them confused with could be true, it's just like, no, this has to go here and this can't go here. So help eliminate those
Yeah, a
questions.
lot of people struggle with remembering what the difference is between could be true and must be true. Thankfully, well, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Those are the majority of the questions in logic games is could be true and must be true. But that's also good because then you have a number of different games to practice that on.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how harsh those words are, though. Could be true. There's a possibility that it's going to rain today, compared to must be true. It has to rain today. It is going to rain today. Like, must be true is very harsh. I can't have any flexibility with that. But could be true. It's just one possibility. I have some flexibilities. You can also think of it, it doesn't have to happen. It's just a possibility. So that's why you can also look at it and go F and K. They don't have to go into O because I could put them in R. I have that
Mm-hmm.
possibility. So yeah, it's important to practice that distinction, especially because that is like 50%, if not more, on your section at these games. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Last one says, which of the following cannot be the group of employees assigned to the realtor's booth?
Well, god dang. That's the one where we're able to put the most in. So gotta think of the ones that.
I know.
So I think I'm gonna choose D, because I was looking at which of them, in all the worlds, which one isn't in R necessarily, and then I realized it's L, but then I seen that C and D both have L, and I don't know if this is the right way to go about. When I'm stuck, I just go off of what's there in front of
So
it.
it's a cannot be true. So it's the opposite of a must be true. Same severity though. 100% cannot happen in our diagrams. Same harshness though.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go about this one of two ways. One of the ways you can go is you look through your answer choices and you ask yourself, that's not, or answer choice A, that's not happening in any of my diagrams. That means that's going to be my correct answer choice. The way that I go through it is if it's 100% not possible, our correct answers are going to have some possibility to them, because you can't have two that have zero possibility. So the way that I look at it is, A, is that possible? If I can make it possible, that's wrong, because I'm looking for 100% not happening. And if I can find it in at least one of my diagrams, I can't get to that 100%. So A, F, G, and M, I could make that happen here. Regardless of if I can make it anywhere else, I just have to prove one time that it happens. I can eliminate it. But when you look at D, F, K, and L, can I make that happen? There's no world where I have F, K, and L in the retailers group by themselves. I could have, I think I saw
Either, yeah, you can have either F or K, but you can't have F, K, and L. That's where I was stuck at, because I know that you can have either F or either K, but you can't have them both with L. So
Yeah. And so that's 100% not possible. So that's why D becomes our answer. So I think thinking about what could be true is a little easier, because most of our questions are like in that positive way of looking at your diagrams. It can happen. It's on my diagram. And so if you're consistent with that and consistently looking for that, I think it's a lot easier than thinking about 100% not happening on my diagram. It's a lot easier to see what is happening than what's not happening.
yeah, because then you just start thinking about all these other things that aren't even there. Like, no, this can't happen. This can't happen.
Wow. Yeah. So
Makes sense.
any questions on that one?
No, I'm just gonna redo all of them again by myself.
Yeah. And I will have this recording uploaded tonight. So you can watch the video back whenever you decide to reattempt this one. But that's the last question of the game. So do you have any questions on the game in general?
No, I think just still the same thing, getting back to like creating all the worlds and the possibilities based off the rules and then just building from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wait, it's still up on my screen. Okay. Even though I'm not doing any more classes until I don't know when. There are still explanations that we have, so you can still look on our YouTube and get explanations. I still go over some of the world building, so that can be helpful. But other than that, I don't really have anything else.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again. It's been great having this one-on-one, even though, it's been helping, for
Good,
sure. Appreciate it.
good, of course. Well, reach out if you have any questions. Nicole and I are doing another boot camp in July, like mid-July, and it's 6 weeks, so it ends like at the end of August or something like that. So we're still trying to figure out what exactly how that schedule is going to look like, since we'll be starting school and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're interested, you can reach out to me and ask if you have any questions or anything like that. But we do go over all 3 sections. So I do teach games in that class or in that course. And then Nicole focuses heavily on LR. And then she does like a class or 2 on RC, but provides you with a number of reading comp lesson videos from previous camps and classes and stuff like that. So,
Okay, so will it be like an email that you guys send out before the actual boot camp to get registered, or how does it work?
I can send you the link.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
would definitely like to do that.
where's my thing? I'm gonna stop this.